Welcome to this deep dive on Vpod.ai. I am your host, Mike, and joining me today is our expert, Susan.
Hi, everyone. It's great to be here.
So today we are looking at something that, honestly, I really wish I had access to when I was in high school. We are talking about creating your complete SAT study plan for the new digital SAT.
Yeah, it's a completely different ballgame now.
Oh, totally. And just as a quick recap, because this builds directly on our previous discussions, Episode 1 covered the whole digital test format.
Right, the shift away from paper.
Exactly. And then Episode 2 broke down the new adaptive scoring model. So if you missed those, definitely go back and give them a listen.
For sure. They really set the foundation for what we're going to talk about today.
Because today we are diving into the College Board's official practice resources. And our mission here is to just cut through the absolute noise of the test prep industry. Because, parents spend an average of like $1,000 on SAT prep every year.
Oh, at least. You have the private tutoring, the massive textbook bundles.
The weekend boot camps.
Right, all of it. And it is a multi-billion-dollar industry that is built almost entirely on anxiety and, just the fear of the unknown.
Yeah, absolutely. But the crazy thing is, the creators of the test just quietly released the exact tools to beat it. Like the algorithm, thousands of real questions, completely for free.
Which really fundamentally changes the entire landscape of college admissions testing. The gatekeepers are essentially handing over the keys.
It's wild. But because going straight to the source isn't just, a cost-saving measure anymore.
Yeah.
With the new digital adaptive SAT, it's an absolute necessity.
It really is. If you are not using the official tools, you aren't actually practicing for the real test.
Okay, so let's get into the actual roadmap. How do we build this plan? Because you can't build a study plan without a destination, right?
Exactly. And that is where the first tool comes in, which is called BigFuture.
BigFuture. Okay, and the documentation says this helps you set a target score.
Right. It integrates right into the College Board ecosystem. And I think this is so crucial from just a psychological standpoint.
Oh.
Well, the implicit goal for every student is usually, just get the highest score possible. Like bleed over the books until I get a 1600.
Yeah, just absolute perfection, which is terrifying.
Right. But BigFuture lets you plug in the specific colleges you actually want to apply to, and then it basically reverse engineers your target score based on what those specific schools actually require.
Oh, wow. So it's looking at the real admissions data.
Exactly. It looks at the middle 50% of their accepted students, and it just lowers the temperature in the room immediately.
I bet. Because you might realize you don't even need a perfect score.
Right. You might look at the data and see that the engineering program you went doesn't require a 1550. It only requires a 1380.
Which suddenly makes the gap between where you are and where you need to be feel, manageable.
Exactly. It removes so much of that overwhelming pressure.
Okay, so we use BigFuture, we get our target score, we know our destination, but to map the route, you need to know exactly where you are starting from.
Yes, which brings us to the diagnostic phase. And this is where the official testing app, Bluebook, comes in.
Bluebook, right. So the documentation heavily emphasizes taking a full-length official practice test in Bluebook right out of the gate before you do anything else.
Yes, they do.
And I have to admit, I am a little skeptical of that advice. Taking a massive 3-hour exam before you've even studied a single flashcard, won't that just completely demoralize a student?
I get that. It feels completely counterintuitive.
Right. Like, why not study for a month, build some confidence, and then take a diagnostic?
Well, even the documentation acknowledges that taking a full-length Bluebook test is a, quote, big commitment. But because the modern test is adaptive, it is an essential first step. You have to establish that baseline.
Because it's not a static paper test anymore.
Right. You need to let the algorithm find your initial ceiling. Think of it like a track coach, evaluating your high jump.
Okay, I like this analogy.
On an old static paper test, the coach makes you jump 1 foot, then 2 feet, then 3 feet, all the way up.
Which is exhausting.
Exactly. And it wastes a ton of time if you're an elite jumper. But the adaptive digital SAT is different. In the first module, it gives you a mix of easy, medium, and hard questions. It's watching you jump.
Okay, so it's actively assessing you.
Right. If you easily clear the 5-foot bar in that first module, the algorithm doesn't make you jump 5'1" in the second module. It immediately raises the bar to 6 feet to find your true ceiling faster.
So how you perform on that first routing module strictly dictates the difficulty of the questions in the second module.
Precisely. And that is why you have to take the Bluebook diagnostic first. You need to experience that specific format to map out a precise data-driven starting point.
Okay, that makes sense. It's the only way to get a real score.
Yeah, and beyond the data, there is a massive psychological benefit too. Taking that initial diagnostic removes the fear of the unknown.
Well, because you actually see the software?
Right. You experience the interface, the built-in Desmos calculator, the way the timer ticks down. You realize it's just a computer program. The monster in the closet is always scarier until you turn the light on.
I love that. Turn the light on.
Okay.
Okay, so the student takes the diagnostic. But here is where the multi-billion-dollar industry usually, sinks its teeth.
Oh, the panic phase.
Exactly. The old model is take a test, get a bad score, panic, and then take 10 more full-length practice tests until your eyes literally bleed.
Which is just volume over strategy. And it is the single most inefficient way to learn anything.
Right. But the College Board ecosystem counters this with a dashboard called My Practice 101.
Yes. My practice, this is where things get really targeted.
Because once you finish that Bluebook test, all your data automatically ports over to this dashboard, right?
Shamelessly.
And this is the transition from the diagnostic phase to the treatment phase. They call it tailored practice. But I want to get granular here. How does it actually prevent a student from just mindlessly drilling questions?
It does it by breaking the exam down into highly specific content domains. There are 8 distinct domains across the reading and writing and math sections.
Okay, 8 domains.
Right. So when you get your Bluebook score back, it doesn't just say, you scored a 500 in math. Good luck.
Which is useless feedback, because math isn't just one single skill.
Exactly. The dashboard analyzes your performance through the lens of those 8 domains. So it might reveal that your algebra is actually in the top percentile.
Oh, okay.
But you are completely bombing the problem-solving and data analysis domain. Or in English, maybe your grammar is flawless, but you are struggling with the craft and structure domain.
So you know exactly where you are leaking points.
Yes. And this feeds directly into the student question bank.
Right, which the documentation says contains thousands of real, official SAT and PSAT questions. But thousands of questions sounds, completely overwhelming.
It does.
If I'm a student, how do I not just fall down a rabbit hole of endless drilling and get totally burnt out?
Well, this is where the strategy shifts from volume to efficiency. Let's say you have 2 hours to study. You could take a full practice test and just blindly hope you encounter the types of questions you're bad at.
Which sounds like a waste of time.
It is. Or you go into the student question bank, you filter exclusively for that craft and structure domain that My Practice identified as your weak spot, and you build your own custom quiz.
Oh, wow. So you are isolating the variable.
Exactly. You are surgically targeting your weakest cognitive link. You can build a custom quiz of up to 80 questions, complete with scores and answer explanations.
It's like having a personal athletic trainer. Like
Yeah.
they only make you work on the specific muscles that are weak, rather than assigning these generic, exhausting workouts.
That is a perfect analogy. Targeting one weak content domain for 20 minutes with active critical review yields a significantly higher score increase than just sitting through 3 hours of a generalized test.
Because you aren't wasting cognitive energy reproving that you already know algebra.
Exactly. It shifts the learning from passive repetition to active improvement.
Okay, so we have the data, we have the tools. Let's talk about how to actually map this onto a calendar. Because a good plan is what really removes the overwhelm, right?
Absolutely. Having a schedule makes the prep manageable.
So the focus materials for this deep dive suggest 3 different timelines. A 4-week plan, an 8-week plan, and a 12-week plan. Let's break those down. Who is the 4-week plan best for?
So the 4-week plan is short and intensive. It's for the student who maybe decided to take the test at the last minute, or they only have a month before test day.
Okay, so it's a bit of a sprint.
Very much a sprint. In a 4-week plan, you don't have time to review everything. You take your Bluebook diagnostic, you identify your top 2 weakest domains, and you ruthlessly target only those areas in the question bank.
You just ignore the stuff you're already okay at.
Right. You maximize point gains in the shortest time possible.
Got it. What about the 8-week plan?
The 8-week is more balanced. This is probably the sweet spot for most students. It gives you enough time to methodically go through your weak domains, but also review your stronger areas so you don't lose your edge.
So a bit more breathing room.
Yeah, you can build in maybe 1 or 2 more full-length Bluebook practice tests to track your progress along the way.
Okay, and then the 12-week plan, That sounds thorough.
Very thorough. This is for the highly motivated student or someone aiming for a really significant score jump. You have 3 months, so you can do a deep dive into foundational skills. You can thoroughly utilize all the partner resources, which we'll talk about in a second, and take a practice test every 3 or 4 weeks.
Right, to constantly recalibrate the baseline.
Exactly. It's low stress because the work is spread out over a long period.
That makes total sense. But let's say a student is on one of these plans, they're taking their custom quizzes, and they hit a wall.
It happens to everyone.
Right, because you can read a paragraph explaining the logic of a quadratic equation, and it might still look like a completely foreign language.
Right.
Software is great, but eventually you need actual instruction.
And that is where the College Board's official partnerships come in. They aren't trying to teach you from scratch. They are a testing agency, so they partnered with experts.
Right, algorithm versus humans. Let's start with the algorithm. Khan Academy.
Yes, Khan Academy is phenomenal.
The sources say it offers official SAT prep that actually builds a customized study plan. But how does that work under the hood? Does the student have to manually type in all their weak spots?
No, and that is the brilliance of this integration. There is a direct data pipeline. You link your College Board account to your Khan Academy account.
Oh, nice.
So all that granular data from your Bluebook diagnostic, the missed questions, the exact sub-skills, it is all ingested by Khan Academy's algorithm automatically.
So it's an automated feedback loop.
It really is. It acts as a relentless, personalized tutor. If Bluebook flags that you missed dependent clauses, Khan Academy serves up a specific instructional video on dependent clauses, followed by drills.
That is incredible.
Yeah.
It's the ultimate tool for consistency. Like, the algorithm doesn't care if you need to watch the same grammar video 6 times at 2 in the morning.
Exactly. It's endlessly patient.
But I'm going to push back again here. If Khan Academy is this perfectly integrated, relentlessly efficient, automated tutor, why is there a second partnership?
Ah, right.
The documentation prominently features Schoolhouse.world. If both are official partners, how should a learner balance their time? Why do we need peer tutors if the algorithm already knows what we need?
Because, simply put, algorithms don't read facial expressions.
Oh, that's a great point.
An algorithm cannot tell when a student is staring at a screen, completely demoralized, feeling like they're just not smart enough to get it.
The emotional friction of learning.
Precisely. Khan Academy is amazing for self-paced skill building, but it lacks human empathy. Schoolhouse.world provides free, live, small group tutoring sessions led by trained peer tutors.
Which is genuinely surprising to me. I mean, live SAT tutoring has historically been a luxury that costs a fortune.
Right, it's usually hundreds of dollars an hour. But Schoolhouse is entirely free. And these are peer tutor students who recently took the exact same test, scored in the top percentiles, and are trained to teach it.
So how do you balance them in your study plan?
You use Khan Academy for the heavy lifting of knowledge acquisition. But when you are truly stuck, when the explanation just isn't clicking and you're getting frustrated, you pivot to Schoolhouse.
To get that human intervention.
Right.
Yeah.
A peer tutor can reframe the problem. They can say, hey, I struggled with this exact concept 3 months ago. Here's the weird trick I used to remember it. They build confidence in a way software just can't.
That makes total sense. You use the algorithm to diagnose and treat, and you use the human to cure the frustration. It really democratizes elite test prep.
It levels the playing field entirely.
Okay, let's shift gears slightly. We've covered the heavy academic lifting and how to adjust your plan if you aren't improving fast enough. But the documentation also dedicates a surprising amount of space to daily habits and logistics.
Yes, the gamification and tech prep.
Right. For example, the question of the day. To me, it sounds like having a daily crossword or a Wordle habit. It's a fun, fast way to tech knowledge. But does one question a day actually move the needle on a massive exam?
It actually does because of a concept called the spacing effect.
The spacing effect.
Yeah, our brains retain information much better when learning is spread out over time rather than crammed in massive blocks.
Which makes sense. Cramming never really works long term.
Right. The question of the day creates a low-stakes daily touch point. It keeps the specific formatting of the College Board's questions simmering in your subconscious.
It's basically microdosing test prep.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yes. You are maintaining familiarity without causing academic burnout.
Okay, but speaking of burnout and anxiety, there is a technical component here that I found really fascinating.
The student readiness check.
Yes. The documentation highlights this readiness check right alongside the academic studying. It prompts students to verify their personal info and crucially, make sure their testing device is ready. Why is this so prominent?
Because in the era of digital testing, we have to recognize that technological anxiety is just as detrimental as academic anxiety.
Oh, absolutely. We've all had that moment where a Zoom call won't connect or your laptop wants to do an update right before a meeting.
Exactly. What happens to your body in that moment?
My heart rate spikes, I start sweating, I completely lose my train of thought.
Right, your body releases a massive spike of cortisol. Now imagine that happening to a 16-year-old right as they sit down for an exam that dictates their college admissions.
That would be devastating.
If their device isn't configured or they don't know how to access the digital calculator, their brain is consumed by tech panic, and you only have so much working memory.
Right. If half your brain is worrying about the software, you only have half your brain left to do the math.
Exactly. The readiness check is designed to make the technology invisible on test day. They call it practicing with confidence. You want the student to be so familiar with flagging questions and reading the timer that they focus 100% on the material.
It's like a musician. You do the tech check before the show so that when the spotlight hits, you can just play the music.
Perfect analogy.
Okay, let's zoom out and synthesize all of this because we have covered a massive amount of ground today.
You really have.
If you are a learner trying to implement this, the roadmap is clear. Whether you have 4, 8, or 12 weeks, you start with BigFuture to set a realistic, data-driven goal.
Then you take the Bluebook diagnostic to find your baseline.
Right. You let My Practice 101 filter your results into the specific content domains. You avoid doom scrolling by using the student question bank for surgical targeted practice.
Use Khan Academy to automate your weak spots, and you jump into Schoolhouse.world when you need a human being.
All while keeping your brain warm with the question of the day and neutralizing tech anxiety with a readiness check.
It's a complete holistic system.
It really is.
Yeah.
And looking at this objectively, I have to say, this isn't just a test prep guide. This entire ecosystem is a masterclass in how to tackle any massive high-stakes project.
How do you mean?
Well, think about the corporate world or an adult trying to learn coding language. You don't just dive into a textbook. You define your outcome, you take a diagnostic, you break the problem down into domains, and you attack your weaknesses systematically.
Right. It's the architecture of mastery. The skills a student builds navigating this data analysis, resource management, those are highly transferable skills. They will serve that student long after college.
Which brings me to a final thought for our listeners to mull over. The College Board has basically open-sourced the blueprint. They gave us the adaptive engine, the targeted data, the live tutoring, all for free.
Which really shifts the landscape.
It does. If the exact tools to master the test are universally accessible and completely free, what is the SAT actually testing now? Are we measuring innate intelligence, or are we measuring a student's capacity for project management?
That is the million-dollar question. Does the true test become how disciplined and resourceful you are at utilizing the free tools sitting right in front of you?
It's a fascinating lens to view this through. The blueprint is out there, but it's up to you how you build the house.
That is all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into SAT Mastery by Vpod.ai.
Thanks for having me.
And make sure to tune in for our next episode where we will be covering Bluebook setup and practice tests. We'll catch you next time.